Please don't forget to subscribe and comment. The rain tapped gently on the windowpane of the small bookstore on Elm Street, the soft drumming blending with the hushed whispers of pages being turned. Harper James sat behind the counter, her eyes drifting away from the novel in her hands. Her heart had been heavy lately, burdened by something she couldn't explain. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe it was the dreams that woke her in the night, leaving her breathless and unsure. She glanced up when the doorbell chimed, and in walked a man with an aura that disturbed the air around him. He was tall, soaked from the rain, his dark hair clinging to his forehead and his eyes scanning the room like he was searching for something he'd lost long ago. His name, she would soon learn, was Mason James. No relation, just a haunting coincidence. Mason approached the counter with a polite nod. "You got anything on forgotten memories?" Harper blinked, caught off guard by the odd request. "I might. Are you looking for fiction or self-help?" "Not sure." "Something deep," he said, voice low and rasped with something unsaid. "Something that feels like it might be about me." They locked eyes for a moment. It was strange, the way his presence pulled at her. He wasn't just a customer. He was a storm she hadn't been ready for. She led him to a small section near the back of the store, her fingers brushing a worn spine of a book titled The Weight of Unspoken Things. She handed it to him, their fingers touching briefly. It was nothing. And it was everything. "Thanks," he murmured. "You're welcome," she replied, but her voice trembled ever so slightly. He came back the next day. And the next. Always with a question, always drawn to books that echoed grief, longing, or mystery. Harper found herself waiting for that bell each morning, her heart skipping at the possibility that he might show up. When he finally asked her to join him for coffee, she didn't hesitate. They sat at a small cafe, steam rising from their cups, the silence between them thick with curiosity. Mason told her bits and pieces, how he had lost someone close, how the grief had become a shadow, how sometimes he felt like he was living with a ghost in his chest. "It's too small," he said suddenly, his fingers tightening around his cup. "This life. This shell. I can't manage it in my soul. Not with everything I feel." Harper's breath caught. His words felt like a mirror. She reached across the table, her fingers curling over his hand. "You're not the only one." Their connection deepened. What started as quiet companionship grew into late-night walks, long talks in the bookstore after closing, stolen glances that said far more than words. One evening, during a thunderstorm, they stood near the poetry shelf, the lights flickering. "You feel it too, don't you?" Mason whispered, stepping closer. Harper nodded, her voice barely a breath. "I do." When he leaned in, their lips met with a longing that had been building for weeks. It was soft, then deepened with the kind of hunger that came from too much holding back. She felt his hands in her hair, the way he held her like she was precious and fragile and made of fire all at once. But it wasn't just passion. There was a storm inside both of them. They were two fractured souls trying to mend something unspoken. A week later, Mason didn't show up. Harper waited. Then she searched. She called the number he'd given her, but it was disconnected. She checked local hospitals, the library, the corner diner he liked. Nothing. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't read. Her world became grayscale without him. Until one day, she found a letter tucked inside The Weight of Unspoken Things. Her hands shook as she opened it. "Harper, I never meant to disappear. But there are things I need to face, things from before I met you that I can't outrun anymore. You made me feel again, and that scared me. I didn't believe I deserved you. I still don't. But I'm working on it. If you still think of me, meet me at the lake. The one with the old pier. Sunset. 1 month from today. Mason." She read the letter 100 times. The pain of his absence warred with the hope blooming in her chest. And when the day came, she went. The lake was quiet, the sky painted in gold and amber. She stood at the end of the pier, her heart in her throat. Minutes passed. Then she heard footsteps. She turned. Mason stood there, rain damp again, eyes filled with that same storm. But this time, there was clarity too. "I came back," he said simply. She nodded, unable to speak. He stepped forward, gently taking her face in his hands. "I don't want to run anymore. If I break, let it be in your arms." Tears slid down her cheeks. "Then break. I'm here." They kissed again, and this time it was different. It was surrender and promise. It was two souls finding space inside one another. They didn't need to say more. The silence said it all. Over the next weeks, Mason became a part of her bookstore, her mornings, her nights. He would read poetry aloud to her in quiet moments. She would sketch little drawings of him and hide them in books for him to find. They lived slowly, deeply. But the past didn't vanish. Mason had secrets. One night, as they sat on the floor beside the poetry shelf, he said, "There's something I never told you." She leaned into him. "Tell me." "I used to be engaged. She died. A car accident. And I was driving." Harper froze. "I never forgave myself. I couldn't love anyone after that, not really. Until you. You opened something I thought had sealed shut." Her voice was soft, steady. "Then let this be the start. Not the end." He exhaled, the weight lifting slightly. It was never about forgetting. It was about forgiving. They built a life slowly, never rushing. Each moment a choice to stay. Each kiss a promise. Each day, Mason found more space in his soul for love. And Harper, once quiet and alone, became the heartbeat of something extraordinary. Because sometimes, what feels too small isn't the space inside us. Sometimes, it's just the walls we build. And love, when real, when brave, breaks them all. The names have been updated to modern American ones. Lila is now Harper, and Blake is now Mason. Let me know if you'd like a video script, voiceover narration, or character image concepts next.